Welcome to SportsBeat KC, the Kansas City Star's daily sports podcast. It's Wednesday, March 4th, and I'm Blair Kirchhoff. We cover two topics today. First, college basketball. Did you know that the NCAA men's college basketball program with the greatest winning percentage over the past 4 years is in Missouri? In those 4 years, Northwest Missouri State has collected 2 NCAA Division II championships, and if you add up the W's and the L's over those years, the Bearcats' 95.5% winning rate is the best in men's college basketball for all divisions. You'll hear from Northwest coach Ben McCollum, who breaks down his team on the eve of the MIAA tournament at Municipal Auditorium. I think you'll enjoy hearing what drives this 38-year-old coach. After a break, you'll hear from 2 football players, a future pro and a pro. The future pro is someone we've talked a lot about over the past few podcasts. Isaiah Simmons, the Clemson linebacker from Olathe North, who figures to be a top 10 selection in the NFL draft in April. Simmons was asked at the NFL Combine last week about patterning his game, and one of the players he mentioned was Chiefs safety Tyrann Mathieu. We're hearing more and more of that from NFL prospects, that Mathieu is something of a role model because of how he plays. So Mathieu was asked about that last Saturday at the Committee of 101 Awards banquet in Kansas City. He had some interesting thoughts on the subject. But first, here's Northwest Missouri State coach Ben McCollum on the Bearcats and his career. Is it just a matter of now of making sure the focus is right going into the most important part of the season?
Yeah, I think it's a lot of it's just handling success and your ability to do that. And we've done a very good job of it. It can always be better. I think with us trying to get ourselves to that high level every game, especially the level that we're gonna go against. You know, just with being ranked so highly and having a lot of success, you're gonna take some serious shots. But with that, you have to understand that you need to get yourself to that extremely high level every single game. And those couple games, just we weren't quite at the level we needed to be. We're at a high level, but not high enough, and we need to make sure we understand that going into postseason.
Has that been? Has that happened to previous teams? Is this something that you've had to deal with in late February in previous years?
Last year it did. Last year we had a game where we won by, I think, 2 points, and the team had a 3-pointer at the buzzer to win it. They missed it. And so we've had this happen before. A lot of it is it wakes you up. I mean, even the first round of the conference tournament last year, I think we beat Emporia State by 2 or 3, something like that, high-scoring game, and then we played really well the next 2 games. It happens, but, the other part of that is the other team's trying to win too. And so that's where I think with the success that we've had, not you generally, but generally speaking, people forget that, the other team's trying to win too.
Well, and going through the season with a 0 or a 1 by the dash is pretty remarkable no matter how it occurs. Mm-hmm. And you guys have done that. And I was trying to, something I'll look up here before I write the story is the stretch that you're on. I don't, off the top of my head, I just don't know if it's equaled in Division II, for the extended period that you guys are.
I don't know that it has been either. I think maybe at West Liberty was close at one point, but they're in a completely different league. I know Colin looked it up at one point. I would have to check to see. But yeah, I mean, it's an unheard of run. For 2 seasons we've lost 1 game. For 4 seasons we've lost 6 games. So we've lost 6 games in 4 years.
That's UCLA of the late 60s, early 70s kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it's absolutely unheard of to do what we've done. I would guess that probably no one has lost fewer games than us in a 4-year span, but part of that is some other teams may play more games, so then they'll accumulate a few more wins, but they'll lose more games in the process. So, it's been an impressive run so far.
So you get asked this a lot. I think I've asked you about it before. Is what keeps you motivated? What keeps you in a position to where this is important. I mean,
Yeah. I think two things. I think first off, the process piece is, I'm a big process guy, so we don't focus so much on our results. At the end of the season, obviously we'll celebrate them, but we want to improve as much as we can possibly improve. And part of that goes back to my original reason for getting into coaching is I want to make a difference on kids once they leave Northwest Missouri State. And so, we'd love to win games while you're here. That's fun. But teaching you how to get yourself to a high level every single day, how to handle adversity, how to handle success, how to be a good teammate, how to be unselfish, all that is going to help you with your life after you leave here. So our attention is always on that specific piece. And so naturally that's ever changing. That's daily. And so you're going to have that motivation pretty consistently. The other part is I always go back to my first couple seasons when we were 12 and 15 and 10 and 16. And I make sure that I remind myself that I'm still that coach. And I think too often when you have success and people tell you how good you are, you start to think that you're better than, reality. And you forget that a lot of that's accumulation of a lot of people, a lot of players, a lot of assistants, a lot of managers, a lot of administrators, just a lot of people surrounding that program. And that's why you're fortunate enough to have that success. But I think once you get over yourself a little bit and kind of understand who you are, that allows you to kind of reflect back on those 10 and 16 years and know I'm still that hungry guy that was about to lose his job and et cetera, et cetera. And so I always go back to that and make sure that I keep things in perspective.
It didn't discourage you after a couple of those seasons?
It discouraged me. Oh, yeah. Yeah, there was a point where I about quit. So it was after one game I about quit. So it was but then after that, it kind of turned and I figured out the reasons as to why we weren't having success. And a lot of it was self-inflicted by me. And then we started to have success and started to be a little bit better.
In what way? How was it?
I did a poor job of understanding my impact of my personal emotions throughout a game on the team. And it was one game in particular where I was real frustrated and my team was playing frustrated and I couldn't understand why. And it was, it's because you're frustrated. And so I kind of realized the impact of my energy and started to change my energy and my perspective during games.
I know I've asked you about this before. You have the record alone suggests that a coach like you would move on at some point. You haven't. Mm-hmm. What is it about this place that has great appeal to you?
Well, I've always been a kind of an extreme loyalist, and then I'm not a grass is always greener guy. I like the grass that I have, and so when you're always looking outside and looking for the next thing, I think too often you forget about what you have in front of you. Now, if and I always tell recruits this, if a high major calls you tomorrow, and Northwest is recruiting you and Mizzou is recruiting you, you probably should go to Mizzou. But if it's a lower level, then you probably should come here because you got a chance to win, and a lot of times we're able to beat a lot of those teams, and I feel like you're gonna have great teammates and et cetera, et cetera. So most of it is just I like what I have here, so it would take something that obviously the same concept for a recruit. I tell recruits all the time, if you're going to go low major or you're going to come to Northwest Missouri State, you need to come to Northwest Missouri State. So then if you go and then do exactly the opposite of what you're telling kids, you're a hypocrite. And so I think our level's better than most of those low major leagues.
Does that put your so do you find yourself recruiting against some low majors and
sometimes, but not always. I think a lot of the we have one kid on our roster one kid on our roster that had Division I offers. Other than that, they all were Division II offers. Of the probably 5 starters, I would say that 4 out of 5 or even 5 out of 5 are, some could play as high major, and then some are mid and whatnot. So we have Division I talent that was overlooked for a variety of reasons. A lot of that goes back to, I was with David Moe at Emporia State, and he was big on trusting your own evaluations, kind of trust your eyes. And so we've always done a good job of trusting our own eyes, not trusting somebody else's evaluations, trusting Twitter, trusting social media rankings. We just trust what we see. And then we see value in kids, and then we just bring out the value that they already have, even more so than they've brought out in the past.
And at this point, because of the success, that now becomes a recruiting factor that may not have existed 10 years ago. I mean, you can sell banners and nets and trophies.
Yeah, you can do it. It helps you and it hurts you. It helps you because you do get the right kids that want to come in and compete. But it hurts you because a lot of kids don't want to come in and compete. They don't want to fight for their spot, and so you'll get a lot of look at what they have at this position and that position and this position. They've got talent here. Yeah, we do, so come beat them out. If you beat them out, that means you're that much better. In today's day and age, a lot of kids don't want to do that. They want that guarantee. They want to feel good. They don't want that pain for a year where they got to earn their spot. And the kids that we have aren't afraid of competition. They aren't afraid of having to wait their turn sometimes, because they understand the importance of winning rather than individual success.
That's interesting. I might have thought about that at a high level of recruit, but I would think if you're not at that high level, you would have a hunger to want to be, or at least to prove that you belong at that high level. But you're saying it exists on all levels.
Yeah, I think it might even be worse at our level.
Really?
Yeah, because you go in Division II, you want to play in their mind.
Yeah.
They don't understand the other perspective that you'd probably be better off going to some low majors because you'd probably have a better opportunity to play than you would here. And so you're gonna have to compete here. You're not gonna get. If I got 5 guys that we think deserve to play, we're gonna play 5. If I've got 10, I'm gonna play 10. It changes based on what it is, but I don't just play 8 to 10 guys regardless of what kind of talent I have. So you're gonna have to earn your way through and earn your way on that floor.
So tell me about this team and how it's similar. The numbers suggest there's a lot of similarities to previous teams, but I remember last year's group. What's different about this year's group?
I think at their highest, they're probably better defensively. At their highest peak level when they're totally engaged, they're defensively probably slightly better. I think the big thing with this group is making sure that they understand why they're having success consistently. When you have a lot of success, it's not that your bellies are full necessarily. It's more that you forget what got you that success. It's really easy to feel good about the praise that you get, and so then you forget, okay, well, this is why we're good. And always going back to that why is something that this team needs to make sure they continue to do. But that would be the difference. Last year's team was naturally felt slighted in a lot of ways because they weren't supposed to be good. And so this year's team was supposed to be good, and so you're fighting a different dynamic.
They seem to have fought it well. I mean, you had to slip up early.
Yep.
Which was a look back, and you hate to pick out a game out of the 28 that you played, but kind of shake your head at that outcome, Central Missouri.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, it was just one of those games. It was the perfect storm. I thought Central played fantastic, and I thought we played about as bad as we could possibly play. And then coupled with the fact that we weren't making shots, and just the perfect storm, and they beat us.
And a coachable moment.
To a level. I think the big thing is why did we get beat, and understanding that piece, and then adjusting to it. But part of it is like, you don't want to just go in and just browbeat everybody. Like, they won 40-some games in a row, and so it's pretty impressive, and you have to make sure that you celebrate some of that stuff as well.
Well, exactly. I mean, and you certainly have. There is an importance in acknowledging the success, and making them feel like there's a reward for the work that you put in, and that's happened, right? I mean, you got when you clinch the MIAA, you'll have a senior night coming up.
Yeah.
And those things have taken care of themselves, haven't they?
Yeah, no, we do. You cut down nets, and they get a lot of praise, and so naturally that happens. I think the thing with humility is you have to make sure that praise doesn't become poison, and so I felt like our kids have done a good job up to this point.
Okay. We're to the point now with your program where anything less than a national championship might seem inadequate.
Yeah.
When you're top ranked and beating all comers, is that the mindset of this group?
Not really. I think that's what they want, but I think at the end of the day, your objective is to continue to improve and continue to get better, and the results are going to take care of themselves regardless of what. Sometimes the results just don't always work out the way they're supposed to, but as long as you control what you can control, I think that. Hopefully this group will like the results that they get.
Hey, it's Blair. Hey, we have a special subscription offer for SportsBeat KC listeners, unlimited digital access to the Kansas City Star's award-winning sports coverage. Sign up now for 1 year of Sports Pass for access to all the sports news, features, and columns we have to offer. And it's only $30. That's a 40% savings off our regular rate. For your convenience, your subscription will automatically renew after the initial term at $50 unless you tell us to cancel. A lot of subscription services won't tell you that. They'll just sneak it on there. We just told you. Your subscription helps support the sports coverage of kansascity.com and the Kansas City Star. Please visit kansascity.com/SportsBeatKC offer to get this special offer. And as always, thanks for listening. We're back. Now let's hear from Isaiah Simmons and Tyrann Mathieu. You'll hear Simmons first. He spoke at the NFL Combine last week. Then you'll hear Tyrann Mathieu. There's a lot of background noise, but I think you'll make out the questions from ESPN's Adam Teicher and then Mathieu's answers.
So, personally, I model my game after a couple people. If I have to go look at film with somebody to get something, it would be Von Miller, just for pass rush, Jalen Ramsey for man techniques, and Tyrann Mathieu, just because he plays around everywhere as well. So I take bits and pieces from all of them to kind of throw into my game.
Trying to emulate, my playing style, I think it just speaks volumes to, really, I think the people that's around me, I've been able to really, just believe in myself and continue, going forward. And I think guys appreciate that, more than anything.
But that's something new, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's just because you're a Super Bowl champ now, or what's that all about?
No, I think if you ask a lot of people, you probably got a lot of guys that raise their hand, when it comes to, whether or not they look up to me. Again, man, I'm in such a great position to be a role model, not only for the youth, but for my peers as well.
Yeah. So, but have you ever gotten that much publicly at least? Hey, I want to play like that guy.
Not publicly. Obviously, every team I played on, everybody wants to, try to, act like me or emulate my attitude or energy level. But, it's a good feeling to, have guys that, are far younger than me, watch me and really study me.
So now that you got that title, is it going to be difficult for you to keep that fire?
No, I don't think so. I try not to get caught up in that. I feel like I'm on a bigger mission. It's not necessarily, about myself. You know, I feel like I'm inspiring a lot of people, and I think football is, you know, really small. You know, I think it's obviously a platform for me, but I think a lot of people look up to me just because, you know, the adversity I've, you know, been able to overcome. And so, you know, I always tend to, you know, reflect on the things I've been through, because it kind of keeps me grounded and, you know, keeps me motivated.
Simple conversation, nothing too crazy.
So when do you start getting ready for next season?
Work and stuff like this.
Is that started already?
Yeah, I mean, I've been thinking about it, you know, really the last month or so. And you know, it's such a great feeling to really accomplish, you know, certain goals you've set out to accomplish. And you know, I think my mindset is to kind of reset and try to do it again. You know, I think we got such a really good team, and a really good opportunity. Not every team has the opportunity we have, and so I think it'll be important for us to kind of reset and, you know, just get back to work.
So what are you up to between now and the start of off-season stuff?
You know, just, you know, raise my family, man. You know, staying out of the way. Baby's doing great. I got my wedding coming up in April. So, excited about that, and then it'll be back to work for me.
When you think back to that, early in your career, you were that jump from your first year to second year. Is that when guys tend to make their biggest?
Yeah, I think so. I'd probably say really the second to the third year, guys really tend to come into their own. But I think the second year is you can see who's really committed and not. You know, guys have a little bit more money in their pocket. You know, they don't have to necessarily listen to authority. You know, they're not necessarily a rookie anymore, and so I think it's a lot of different dynamics that kind of go into it. I think that's why it's important to kind of, you know, make sure you surround yourself around good people, people that's gonna, you know, really teach you how to be a professional, and more so just teach you how to prolong your career.
Yeah, I got to tell you, that deal we were talking about at the Combine really struck me. I mean, was it that way for you? I mean, were you like, wow, this is something new?
You know, it's humbling, man. You know, because I'm not perfect, and you know, I'm not the prototypical athlete, and you know, I'm not the fastest, I'm not the biggest, I'm not the strongest. I won't even grade well, right? Like if you have a combine today,
the PFF.
So, yeah. But I think what a lot of those guys respect is, you know, I think I play for much more than myself. I think every team I've been on, I think people have been able to see that, you know, I play for the guy next to me more so than myself, and I think a lot of young guys, you know, I think they like that. Yeah. Appreciate it.
Sorry, thanks, man.
Thank you. Yep.
That'll do it for today. Thanks to our producers Savannah Smith, Derek Donovan, Randy Mason, Beth Welsh, Jeff Rosen, and Chris Fickett. We'll be back on Thursday. Pretty sure the topic will be Kansas basketball, with the Jayhawks having an opportunity tonight to clinch the Big 12 championship, or at least a share of it. Until then, thanks for listening to SportsBeat KC, where we talk sports in Kansas City every day.